Welcome to another episode of Chad Sports Talk. You don't know, my name's Chad. Take a dive world of sports. And this video has been something that's been a long time in the making since I posted my previous video when David Ortiz was the lone selectee into the Hall of Fame, and a lot of the fan favorites of the Steroid era never made it. They got their last attempt on the ballot, and they failed to meet the minimum requirement. And there was a lot of controversy about this, saying that Bonds never tested positive, but Ortiz did, and the whole thing about that. And if you want to look at that previous video, I'll have it somewhere up here, around here, somewhere here, there. You know, you'll find around there. Well, I'll put the link to that so you can see the first video about this. And I did mention some of the few people that were left off that I think should have got in. But I'll kind of go more in depth in this video about some of these individuals, kind of give a little more history about the fact and part of the reasons why they have been left off introduction into the National Baseball Hall of Fame. But before I get into all that, well, if you could smash that thumbs up for me, give me a like, especially like the content I provide you. It really pleases the YouTube gods to help promote this channel. You can also subscribe. A lot of you guys are reviewing my work, and I love you all for doing that. Now, many of you subscribe. This costs you a dime. It helps me provide more entertainment value for you. Let's just dive right into this this list. And I got about 10 individuals that I will mention that probably should be in, and then at the end I have another list of honorable mentions that could possibly be brought in. So, like I said, let's dive right in and go with, I think, the number one individual that most deserves to be in the Hall. The first glaring overlook is Pete Rose, also known as Charlie Hustle. He was a key member of the Big Red Machine during the Cincinnati Reds run the dominance in the 70s. He's still the all-time leader in hits with 4,256 hits. A feat I don't think no one will kind of break. It did take 57 years before the previous holder, Ty Cobb, lost it to Pete Rose. That's how long Ty Cobb held on to it. So I think Pete's going to probably hold on about as long. Right now, the only current player with at least 3,000 hits is Albert Pujols. And it looks like he's in the tail end of his career. His numbers are slipping down a little bit. So we kind of see how that one kind of plays out. Currently, there are only 6 members of the 3,000 hit club not in the Hall. Of course, currently, Albert Pujols. Ichiro Suzuki, who's not eligible for the Hall of Fame to 2025. Adrian Beltre, not eligible to 2024. A-Rod and Paul Mero were part of that Steroid era, which I will cover a little bit later. And, of course, Charlie Hustle. Now, there's a reason why Pete Rose has been kind of left off amid reports that he had bet on baseball, which Rose was informally questioned back in February 1989 by then Commissioner Pete Ueberroth, and then National League President Bart Giamatti. Rose vehemently denied these allegations. So by the time Giamatti took over as commissioner of Major League Baseball, this is when Sports Illustrated gave the public their first detailed report of allegations that Rose had placed bets on baseball games on March 21st of 1989, which this issue was then issued out on the 3rd of April of that same year. Later, Giamatti then hired lawyer John Doyd to investigate the charges against Rose. Now, of course, during an investigation, interviewed many of Rose's associates, alleged bookies, bet runners, delivered some of his findings to the commissioner in May. And it kind of documented the alleged gambling activities in 85 and 86 and compiled a day-to-day account for his alleged betting on baseball games in 87, and documented alleged bets on 52 Reds games in 87, citing Rose wagered a minimum $10,000 a day, whereas other eligibility or allegedly involved in the activities, claimed the number was actually about $2,000 a day. Of course, during all this, Rose continued to deny all the accusations against him and refused to appear in a hearing. All this being said, around by August 24th, 1989, with all the legal maneuverings and being tied up in the courts, Rose then voluntarily accepted a permanent place on baseball ineligibility list. And he also accepted that there was factual reason for the ban. In return, made his baseball agreed not to make no formal finding with regard to gambling allegations. And according to the rules, Rose can apply for a reinstatement in a year. But Commissioner Giamatti, there's obviously no deal for reinstatement. This is exactly what we did not agree to in the terms of a fixed number of years. Now, the report from Dodd actually says there's no evidence was discovered that Rose bet against the Reds. But an investigator stated that in December of 2002, interview that he believed Rose probably bet against the Reds while managing him. Those critical of Rose's behavior included Ohio's Hall of Famer baseball reporter Hal McCoy had observed that the major problem with Rose betting on baseball, particularly the Reds, is that the manager, controlled games, make decisions that could enhance his chances of winning his bets, just jeopardizing the integrity of the game. Rule is, Rule 21, misconduct, Section D, betting on ball games, any player, umpire, or club, or league official, or employee who shall bet any sum whatsoever upon any baseball game in connection with which the bettor has a duty to perform shall be declared permanently ineligible. Then that leads to another individual kind of involved into some type of scandal, and that is Shoeless Joe Jackson. And of course, his brief history, in 1911, Jackson was his first full year in baseball with Cleveland. He set a number of rookie records. His 40 batting average that season is a record that still stands. And was good enough for second overall behind one of the most prolific hitters as well of his time frame, Ty Cobb. His .468 on-base percentage led the league. And then the following season, he batted .395. Led the American League in hits, triples, and total bases. And it was in August 1915, Jackson was then traded to the Chicago White Sox. 2 years later, the White Sox won the American League pennant in the World Series against the New York Giants. He was kind of out in 1918, kind of helping out shipyards during World War I, but in 1919 he came back and strongly posted a .351 average during the regular season, .375 with perfect fielding in the World Series. However, the heavily favored White Sox lost the series to the Reds. And then next season, Jackson bet at .382 and was leading the league in triples when he was suspended, although along with 7 other members of the White Sox for allegations surfaced that the team had thrown the previous World Series. This all led to the grand Black Sox scandal of 1919. Jackson and 7 other players were accused of accepting $5,000 each by going with the inflation rates of by 2020 was $75,000 to throw the series. And so September of 1920, a grand jury was convened to investigate these allegations. But Jackson's 12 base hits set a series record that was not broken until 1964. He led both teams with .375 batting average and committed 0 errors. However, the Reds hit an unusual high number of triples in Jackson's position in left field, which kind of led to some speculation. But during the grand jury, Jackson admitted to participate in the fix, with some news accounts quoting this as, now remember, some news accounts quoted him saying, when a Cincinnati player would bat a ball out in my territory, I'd muff it if I could. That is, fail to catch it. But if it looked like too much like a crooked work to do that, I'd be slow and make a throw to the infield that would be short. My work netted the Cincinnati team several runs that would never happen if I've been playing on the square. But this precise quote does not appear in any stenograph record of Jackson's grand jury appearance. So it's kind of controversial to say the least. In 1921, a Chicago grand jury then acquitted all members of the White Sox of any wrongdoing. However, newly appointed Commissioner Kennesaw Mount Landis imposed a lifetime ban on all these players, declaring, regardless of the verdict of the juries, no player that throws a ball game, no player that undertakes or promises to throw a ball game, no player that sits in a conference with a bunch of cricket players and gamblers, where the ways and means of throwing games are planned and discussed and does not promptly tell his club about it, will ever play professional baseball. Now, there's been speculation of Jackson's innocence during this thing, that he could have been coerced or just thrown in there for name recognition. Because it's been reported that he refused the bribe on 2 separate occasions. Apparently, I guess he tried to tell White Sox owner Charles Kaminsky about the fix, but Kaminsky refused to meet with him. I know the Ford legal counsel, Jackson was represented by a team attorney, Alfred Austrian, which is a clear conflict of interest. And before his grand jury testimony, Austrian allegedly elicited Jackson's admission of supposed role in the fix by plying him with whiskey. Austrian was also able to persuade a nearly illiterate Jackson to sign a waiver of immunity from prosecution. Years later, the other 7 players in the scandal confirmed that Jackson was never at any of the meetings. Williams said that they only mentioned Jackson's name to give their plot more credibility. Jackson's performance during the series itself lends further credence to his assertions, although the game records showed that he had better than any clean players than those which were thrown. In a 93 article in the American Statistician reported the results of the statistical analysis of Jackson's contributions during this World Series and concluded that there was substantial support to Jackson's subsequent claims of innocence. However, he still remains on the ineligible list. In 2015, the Shoeless Joe Jackson Museum formally petitioned Rob Manfred for reinstatement on the grounds that Jackson had more than served his sentence in 95 years since the banishment by Landis. Manfred denied the request. After official review, the results of the work demonstrated to me that is now not possible now, over 95 years since these events took place, and were considered by Commissioner Landis to be certain enough of the truth to overrule. So pretty much he's like, there's not enough evidence to overrule a previous commissioner. But 2020 ESPN reported Major League Baseball had shifted its policy and that the league has no hold on banned players after they die because the ineligibility list bars players from privileges that include a job with a major league club. This is still kind of unclear how it affects Jackson's Hall of Fame prospects. Now, I really highlighted these 2 players because they were both banned due to gambling. Now, Jackson's a little bit more about potentially throwing a game, much like another player I was talking about that should probably have been in there. Jim Devlin was a great pitcher who has the number 3 ERA in all time. But he actually threw games, admitted to it, so he's permanently banned. And this is basically where Jackson kind of falls into, but his status is in question. So I think Jackson, even though I believe he should be in the Hall, but his is in there, but it's all because of gambling. Now, I do kind of find it ironic, especially with Rose, that they're still banned, especially with the meteoric rise, really, of online sports books. I mean, promoted during major league games, much like the NFL and NHL, with many of these providing much needed commercial funding for the leagues, led by FanDuel and DraftKings, especially during the years when they had no fans that needed extra money. So I just think it's a matter of time before Major League Baseball will kind of look at that as like, well, we're banning these guys on this, and now we're kind of promoting it. But with Rose, they do have that rule in place that kind of ties Rose's hand really on anything. But if you look pretty much at the wording of this is just to play the game, nothing about being in the hall. Next one I'm going to kind of try to cover quickly is the steroid era snubs. Now, there's a lot of players on there that probably look like they should be in there. Barry Bonds. I mean, if you look at it during this era, in 1998, you had that home run race between McGwire and Sosa to see who's going to break Roger Maris's record first. And then 2001, you had Bonds' magical run to see if he can pass McGwire's mark. And this was just like two exciting eras that everyone enjoyed watching, including myself. I really got into this and seeing these guys go about this. Even with Bonds' truck, he's able to break the most walks in the season, which he beat Babe Ruth's record. He also beat his slugging percentage. And then once again, in 2007, everyone was awed in about how Bonds was on pace to break Hank Aaron's mark. And he's also the only player to be in the 500 home run, 500 stolen base club. I mean, no other player's done that. Another one you look at, but with Bonds, never tested nor answered any questions about it. McGwire neither confirmed nor denied under oath. Sosa's completely denied it. Roger Clemens is another one that had it's part of the 300 win club, the 4,000 strikeout club, where he's third all time in strikeouts. Never really, answered any questions about his potential involvement. Rafael Palmeiro completely denied it, and then later on tested positive and suspended 10 days. Manny Ramirez, another big name pops up, suspended twice. Jose Canseco completely admitted to it. A-Rod, he got suspended the entire 2014 season. An entire season he was suspended because of this. Miguel Tejada, a 105-game suspension in 2013. I mean, there's a lot of these players, and a lot of these guys didn't test positive beforehand because they weren't really touching because the HGH, human growth hormone, new type of little steroid, a little natural, a little less of the side effects. But you can see the physiques of like Jose Canseco, Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire. Ken Caminetti is another one. You saw how these guys got bigger and got more powerful. But some players you can see if you can progress and get bigger as you get older, because now you get more professional trainers, more guidance on your diet, better and legal supplements. So there's definitely little ways about this, and with the steroid era, that really, plus there's the controversy of the juice ball as well, where the ball was structured a little bit differently, where it carried a little bit further because of less restrictions, or bounces a little bit differently. There's a whole different area about that one as well, which increased the number of runs, increases the offense, which got more people involved because people want to see scores. They don't like the old days where you have a 1-0 game. It's nothing but a pitcher duel. Fans want to see offense. They want to see the long ball. That's the most advantageous of everything. But a lot of this really stems from the Balco steroid scandal, and then the ultimate hearings in Washington in 2006. Commissioner Seeley tasked former U.S. Senator George Mitchell to lead an investigation into the use of performance-enhancing drugs in Major League Baseball. And in 2007, he created a 409-page report. Boy, I didn't want to read. I wouldn't want to read that one. But the report described the use of anabolic steroids and human growth hormone in Major League Baseball and assessed the effectiveness of the Major League Joint Drug Prevention and Treatment Program. Mitchell also advanced certain recommendations regarding the handling of past illegal drug use and future prevention policies. The report also named 89 players who were alleged to have used steroids or drugs in there. Once again, Clemens was also named on this one to have used it late in his career, which would kind of explain why maybe his fastball is still hitting 100 every so often. Maybe not. Mainly based on a testimony given by his trainer, Clemens firmly denied these allegations under oath before Congress. With Bond and Clemens for sure, they've been hit their limit a number of times on the ballot and never got in, never really got their minimum requirements to get elected into the Hall, even though neither one of them tested positive. That's a key factor in this aspect. You're just under the assumption that these guys were jacked, that they took some type of performance-enhancing supplement to affect their game performance. You can assume what you want, but if you don't have facts to back that up, it's hard to really go about that. Now, which leads back to Ortiz. Ortiz's positive test was part of the report to see how rampant the use of these enhancements were in Major League Baseball. It was not intended to go public, nor was it punishable because there's no rule in place at the time. Now, since those rules were in place, Ortiz never tested positive ever again. So it's kind of throw that little fact out there as well for him. But like I said, for the Steroid era guys, I really think that Bonds and Clemens for sure, and definitely need to get in there. I'll throw McGuire in there. He never tested positive. I always still put Rafael Palmeiro in there, just because of his 3,000 hits, 500 home runs. He was a great hitter. He wasn't really known as a home run hitter, but he still had 500 home runs. Yes, he did get test positive once. Not allow that people to make it, but for like Manny Ramirez 2 times, Canseco admitted to it. I would actually keep A-Rod out. I know previously I did state I would keep it in there, but I totally forgot about his 2014 entire season suspended because of this. So I would definitely keep A-Rod out. Even though on the field, I mean, he showed to be a great player, but after coming back from suspension, he's definitely not the same ball player. I do remember that one. But moving on, one that never made it, that should have, or he really should have, is Curt Schilling. And these definitely pitchers that you want to be in there. He was part of the Phillies when he won the NL pennant, but fell to the defending champions Toronto Blue Jays in the World Series. 2001, while teamed up with the big unit, Randy Johnson helped Arizona Diamondbacks become the youngest team to win a title in just 3 seasons. Then 2004, with Pedro Martinez, he'll break the curse of Boston to capture their first title since 1918. Not to mention coming back down 3-0 to the Yankees in the ALCS. And of course, that postseason was best known for his bloody sock. And then they followed up with another championship in 2007. Both Johnson and Martinez, his teammates during those magical runs, are in the Hall of Fame. Curt is the only member of the 3,000 Strikeout Club, 15th overall, not in the Hall. Now, he's had a lot of flack with the media. He's had a long-standing feud with ESPN and the former Arizona Republic reporter Pedro Gomez. Initially, Gomez criticized manager, then Diamondback manager Buck Showalter. And then published a column critical of Schilling the same day Schilling was pitching in Game 7, 2001 World Series. In this column, Gomez, during the past few days, the country has discovered Schilling's little secret, the one baseball insiders have known for years, but has rarely surfaced into the mainstream. Schilling is something of a con man. Some are more intent on polishing his personal image through whatever means possible. And then pretty much he said later on, a year later, Gomez said that the relationship between Schilling and Johnson was cosmetic. In the interviews in October 2004 and February 2006, Schilling was criticizing Baltimore Sun sports columnist Laura Fessy, compared her to Gomez and sports writer John Heyman. He was quoted saying there were a lot of her in that industry, Pedro, Gomez, and Heyman, to name a few, people with so little skill in their profession that they need to speculate, make up, fabricate to write something interesting enough to be printed. What makes them bad people? I'm sure I cannot nail the exact reason, but I know some: jealousy, bitterness, and the need to be different. And then April 2007, a broadcaster, Gary Thorne, said he overheard then Red Sox catcher Doug Mirabelli said the blood on a sock used by Schilling in Game 6 of the 2004 ALCS was actually paint. Mirabelli accused Thorne of lying. In a day later, after talking to Mirabelli, Thorne backed off his statement, saying he misinterpreted what was intended as a joke, having talked with him today, there's no doubt in my mind that's not what he said. That's not what he meant. He explained that it was in context of sarcasm and jabbing, and that goes on in the clubhouse. Schilling didn't respond to his blog by saying the following. So Gary Thorne says that Doug told him the blood was fake. Even when he's called out, he can't admit he lied. Doug never told Gary anything. Gary overheard something and then misinterpreted what he overheard. Not only did he misreport it, but he also misinterpreted what he misreported. There's been some conflicts with players and management that's been kind of rumored out there. Schilling was publicly criticized by Phillies teammates Mitch Williams and Larry Anderson and Danny Jackson for his conduct during the '93 World Series. Pretty much whenever Williams was the wild thing, basically during that time frame where he would just the hard throwing closer. Anytime he was on the mound, when at the time frame CBS was covering the World Series, would put the camera on Schilling in the dugout, hiding his face with a towel. Although Schilling said he was nervous in the heat of the World Series, his teammates criticized him being disrespectful. But in 2008, Schilling released a blog post blasting his former teammate Manny Ramirez conduct before Ramirez left the Red Sox. Even back with going back to the Phillies again, he was a vocal critic of team management. When he's out in Arizona, he damaged a Questec camera with a bat. According to Schilling, the umpire behind the plate had said, "I can't call that pitch a strike. The machine won't let me." This led to a fine and public exchange with insults from Major League Baseball executive Sandy Alderson, who accused Schilling of whining and wanting balls to be called strikes. In response, Schilling said Anderson was ignorant to the facts and ignorant about what I said. And I think with his perceived interaction with the media and possible political tie-ins, less likely. Interaction with certain teammates, probably. He's also lashed out against Roger Clemens during that congressional hearing, said if he did cheat, everything that he won since 2004 should be just thrown out. He should just turn it over. But, that being said, I think his interaction with the media is one of the reasons why I think Curt Schilling has been kind of left out of that. And with the committee, that's more players. So they may have a different aspect of his ability to play with other teams and his other teammates. But me personally, Curt Schilling should be in the Hall of Fame. And then I'm going to go straight back to a older individual who's not in the Hall of Fame. I think really should be in the Hall of Fame. By the name of Lefty O'Doul. Early in his career, Lefty was a relief pitcher, and he has probably a notoriety for pitching that I think no pitcher wants. 23, when he was a relief pitcher with the Boston Red Sox, he gave up 16 runs in 3 innings, to include 14 in the 6th alone. Now, for ERA standpoints, only 3 of those runs counted as earned for Lefty. That's due because of the poor Red Sox play and multiple errors that resulted in all the other runs. This feat has been repeated twice, but those pitchers need 8 innings, where Lefty was able to do it in 3. Shortly thereafter, he developed soreness in the arm and never pitched again. And once he went to the sign with the Giants, he got sent back down to the Pacific Coast League, where he switched, became a power hitting outfielder. Then he got traded to the Phillies. Then he got teamed up with Chuck Klein, and that's when he had his best offensive numbers. He tallied 254 hits, which broke 1929's record set by Rogers Hornsby's. He did in 1929, which broke Roger Hornsby's record set in 1922. And then he got traded to Brooklyn later on, where he won the World Series in 1933, and in his career with the Giants. Also a lefty, he was also a very successful manager in Pacific Coast League, especially his hometown team, the San Francisco Seals. He helped develop a very young Joe DiMaggio, although he never took credit for it. He just pretty much said, I just left the kid alone. But one of the most fascinating things about O'Doul is that he was instrumental in spreading baseball's popularity in Japan, serving as a sports goodwill ambassador before and after World War II. The Tokyo Giants, sometimes referred to as Japan's baseball team, were named by him in 1935 in honor of his longtime association with the New York Giants. In the logo and uniform of the Tokyo Giants strongly resemble their North American counterparts. Now, besides the ineligible right now, Shoeless Joe Jackson, O'Doul has the highest career batting average of any big player eligible for the Hall, who is not currently enshrined and sits 6th all time. Now, as of November 2021, he was one of the 10 finalists to be considered in the early days committee for introduction. He needed 12 votes out of 16 to get in. Unfortunately, he only got 5. It was definitely one of these individuals that not only could hit, but help promote the game outside the United States. And if you didn't promote baseball in Japan, would we ever got Ichiro or Otani? The kind of things you kind of look at. And then another aspect, no love for the closers. For some reason, the Baseball Hall of Fame has no love for the closers, the guys that put the nail in the end of the game. Now, the top 3 relievers in Major League Baseball is Mario Rivera, Trevor Hoffman, and Lee Smith. No one's going to argue that these guys are not the best relievers ever in Major League Baseball. But then the next highest member on that list, who's in the Hall of Fame, is Dennis Eckersley, who sits 7th all time on the list with 390 saves. There are 3 other guys in between them, sitting above Dennis Eckersley. Sitting 4th is Francisco Rodriguez with 437 saves, who is not eligible until 2023. John Franco, 424, and then Billy Wagner at 422. Franco, he was a traditional relief pitcher with a 90 miles per hour fastball and the changeup that breaks away from right-handers batter like a screwball. He did spend 6 seasons with the Reds early in his career and is a very successful closer. He helped the Reds finish 2nd for 4 seasons in a row. And then he was traded off to the Mets, where he remained with the Mets organization in 2004. And he remained the primary closer for the Mets until 1999, and then he got moved more to the setup role for Armando Benitez. And he led the league in saves in 88, 90, and 94 seasons. And then May 11th, 1996, a game against the Chicago Cubs, the Mets held a John Franco Day to celebrate his 300th career save. And he spent a year with Houston, making him the oldest active pitcher in baseball before just, having to give it up. But he got dropped off after the 2011 ballot when he failed to meet the minimum requirements to stay on further ballots. Then Billy Wagner spent most of his career with the Houston Astros, earning 225 saves between 95 and 03. However, criticized Houston Astros management for not building a playoff-worthy team and was then traded to Philadelphia. Spent 2 seasons there, adding another 59 saves to his total before signing with the Mets. Earned his 300 save in 2006. Then spent time with Boston and Atlanta, and with the Braves received his 400 save in 2010. Now, Wagner is still eligible for the Hall. 2022 ballot is his 7th attempt. He still has 3 more tries to get in. But looking at the record of relief pitchers being added, he probably won't. And it's, like I said, it's just no love for the closers. So, looking over this, these are some of the guys that I think really should be in there. Of course, Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, Curt Schilling, Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, Roger Clemens, Rafael Palmeiro, John Franco, Billy Wagner, and Lefty O'Doul. Those are the 10 players I think are not in the Hall that should be in the Hall. Schilling and Wagner still have other opportunities to get in. Schilling in December 2022, part of the committee that he could get in that way. Yeah, I think he probably will. At least he should. And then Billy Wagner still has 3 more years on the ballot. I don't have high expectations for that to happen. Consider, I think, the honorable mention. Well, that's all I got. Like I said, I got my 10 guys I said I should be in there. I got my 10 honorable mentions. There's going to be a lot of talk back and forth about, which one deserves it more than others. But I think these guys definitely are some of the players that should be in the Hall, especially the 10 I think they should be in. Honorable mentions, I think probably about 3 or 4 I really think should be in the Hall now, but they're not. So only time will tell if these guys get in or not. Some of them have to wait for special committees. But anyways, let me know down below what you think. Who else that's not on this list or have not mentioned do you think should be in the Hall that's been snubbed? You gotta think some of the names you might think of are not eligible yet, but there's a few guys out there that I know that I was surprised never got in, but their numbers are not Hall worthy, I think. But hey, just let me know down below what you think. Once again, when you're there, you can smash that thumbs up. It really helps me out. You can also subscribe. Once you subscribe, hit that bell notification until next time I post a video. And I will see you next time on Chat Sports Talk.